All right, good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order February 8th, 2024 at 6 o'clock on the dot. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Terrell,
Here.
Commissioner Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Zeitz,
Here.
Commissioner Steffen,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Cobian,
Here.
Chairperson Dijonay.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Zeitz will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now move to the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And we have an electronic vote. Okay, the motion does carry. All right, before we hear public comments this evening, I ask and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful towards others, especially towards the individuals that are speaking. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to a free speech, including everyone's right to speak at this meeting and share his or her views about issues concerning our city. But we can accomplish that more as a city and as private citizens by being civil and respectful toward one another in this meeting. During the public comment period for each item, as well as during the public comment period for items not on the agenda, each member of the public who has signed up to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. Any person wishing to address the commission on any matter, either under the public comment section of the agenda or scheduled items or public hearing, must fill out a request to speak form available at the door. The completed form must be submitted to the secretary prior to the agenda item being called by the chairperson. In speaking to the commission, members of the public may be limited to 3 minutes per person except for the applicant for entitlement. The commission may establish an overall time limit for comments on a particular agenda item. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson of the commission and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or the audience. The next item is public comments. Any item not on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and non-controversial and may be enacted by a motion unless a member of the commission requests that an item be removed for separate action. Items withdrawn for the report or discussion will be heard after the public hearing items. Questions or comments from the public on consent calendar matters may be limited to 3 minutes per individual and must pertain to the subject under consideration. At this time, would any commissioner like to pull an item from the consent calendar for a separate vote or comment? I guess I'll take that as a no. All right. All right, so we'll move on. Let's see here. Item number 1, annual progress report as required by Government Code 65400. Do we have any public comments for items on the consent calendar? No? All right. No comments? All right. May I have a motion and second for approval of the consent calendar?
All motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Okay, the item does carry. The next item on the agenda is non-public hearing items. At this time, we have no items. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of a public hearing item. Item number 1. The applicant requests approval for a general plan amendment, change of zone, condition use permit, and tentative tract map number 38458 to subdivide approximately 9.42 acres for a planned unit development that would be comprised of 78 detached single-family residents. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chairman. The item this evening will be presented by Contract Planner Oliver Mojica.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. The item before you is located, the property is located on the southwest part of the city. It's located on Iris Avenue, just east of Indian Street. So the first part of the process of the application is a general plan amendment. The request is a change the general plan designation from R5 residential to R10 residential. And the exhibit here shows the area, and the highlighted site is where the location of the property is. Change of zone is a request to change it from residential 5 to residential single family 10, and again identified here on this slide. The residential 10 allows for what's called a planned unit development or PUD type development, where rather than this traditional standard subdivision type of lots, it's more smaller, and then we have some tailorized guidelines. There was a development design guidelines that was done for this project, and that covers the floor plans, architectural design for the exterior, landscaping, how the property is to be maintained in the future, and really to maintain a continuity as the project continues to move on. The project does have a tot lot and a dog park. That'll be privately maintained by the homeowners association, and it will be available to the public for use. I will point out this is not a gated community, so the public can access, can walk through or drive through if need be. But again, that amenity is available to the general public. The project has 4 floor plan designs and also 4 elevations, exterior elevations for it. There was an initial study, mitigated negative declaration, that was done for the project pursuant to CEQA. It was circulated for public review, and that item is one that's before you this evening. Kind of an example of the elevations. They have 4 elevations. They have the Craftsman, they have a ranch, they have a prairie style, and they have a Spanish style, and those exhibits were provided in your package. In our recommendation, there's a series of resolutions here for you to consider. The first would be, and your recommendation would be to the City Council, since it involves a general plan amendment and a change of zone. The first action would be to adopt the resolution to forward the recommendation that the City Council adopt the mitigated negative declaration along with the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Once that is complete, then they could move to the next recommendations, which would be to adopt the resolution to approve the general plan amendment, separate resolution to adopt or approve the change of zone, and the final resolution would be to approve the project, which would be the conditional use permit and tentative tract map 38458. That concludes my presentation. I would be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. I just wrote some of these stuff down. Why does the staff feel that this general plan change in zoning is appropriate for this plan, plan?
So the recommendation of staff is based off of the fact that the applicant has ultimately gone through the entire entitlement process. They have submitted all of the applicable documents and completed all of the applicable filings in which to meet our requirements to bring it before the Planning Commission. The purpose behind us supporting it is ultimately, while there is a general plan amendment change being proposed for this project, that is simply limited to a change in the land use elements associated with the land use map to modify the overall density of the development. Otherwise, this project actually meets numerous other policies and requirements within the city's general plan related to open space, circulation, the city's housing element. It meets or exceeds some of those provisions, to a great extent. So that's ultimately why staff has put this application forward and supported it for approval. And again, it is simply a modification of the city's land use map. And the last thing I would state is when we look at the general plan as a whole, while it was a comprehensive general plan, most of the general plan focus for amendment's sake was on our key corridors within the city. Whereas this property is not directly adjacent to any of those key corridors. So while we did look at the city comprehensively, our primary focus of the general plan was our primary corridors.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I just wrote this down. Another question. Now, will this project help us help us move towards achieving our arena goals?
So any new residential development is ultimately going to help us achieve our RENA goals. The additional density of this project does make that a bit easier, gives us a little bit more room on the top end. The city, though, does have a certified housing element because we did meet our RENA. We did put forward appropriate policies and land use designations to already meet and exceed our RENA. This would just allow us to exceed it to a greater degree. And having that little bit of headroom by approving a project such as this is not a bad thing for the city to have.
Okay, and one more question, Mr. Chairman, if you allow me to have one more. Can you spell out the type of street improvements for this project? The type of street improvements going to benefit the surrounding areas on the site and off the site?
I personally cannot, but I do have our public works staff with us this evening, so I'm going to defer that question to them.
Good evening, Commissioner. This is Clement Jimenez with the Land Development Division. With respect to the off-site improvements, on the north side, we have Iris Avenue. It's mostly built out, but the south part of the street needs another travel lane, which this developer is going to construct, as well as curb, gutter, and sidewalk. And with regards to the internal streets, they are private streets. The main street that runs north-south meets our standard of 36 feet curb to curb. And then it also has smaller private streets that shoot off of that main street, and those are 24 feet wide.
Okay, one more. I'm sorry. So the project the infrastructure for the project, like sewer and all that, is already there. All they have to do is connect it, so it will support with the improvements that the project will be doing will help with the existing infrastructure as far as to support the project.
Correct.
Am I
Yeah,
correct?
the main infrastructure is within existing streets, and they will be running that infrastructure within the private street system.
That's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commissioner questions for staff?
I have one question. How many general plan amendments do we have allotted for? And yeah,
We have 4 general plan amendments per element.
per element.
Per year. So ultimately, this, the way that we traditionally structure our general plan amendments, when we take if this project is submitted to the city council, what we do is we tend to package them together as a one if it's a land use element. If there are multiple land use element modifications that we're taking forward at one time, we will ultimately package them all together as one project or one general plan amendment to the city council. So I know that we have two, without talking about the other project in any length that we have this evening, ultimately the two projects would go forward to the city council as a singular general plan amendment, and we have the authority as staff to take that forward in that manner, to where they are together only amending the general plan once.
So this would be, it's per year. This is land use element. So this is just number one.
This is
Technically, there could be three more
There
throughout,
could be three more for the land use element
throughout the year.
throughout the year.
Got it.
And then we've got 4 for every other element still available to us.
Got it. Thank you.
Did I understand that correctly as you put them together in a group? And that's considered one?
Correct, because we're only making one textual change to the document. Because we're doing them both at the city council, when they adopt that resolution, they are adopting both of them at the exact same time. So what they're doing is they're adopting that, they're just they're changing the color of those 2 boxes on the land use map at the exact same time. And that's considered one amendment
Okay.
because it's only one resolution.
Is there any limit to the amount that can be packaged together?
No, because the entire general plan was actually amended as one amendment when we adopted the new general plan. So we completely got rid of the old one and adopted the new one as one action.
Okay.
Even though there's 2 owners?
Yes, and we've actually done them here in the city where we've actually taken general plan amendments for properties that were non-contiguous and different uses. We've taken industrial buildings forward with residential projects before and commercial.
Oh, so you just lump them together?
So they all come together as one action, one item. And it's a singular amendment. And again, when we did our general plan update for 2040, that was one amendment to each and every one of those sections of the general plan. But it was a comprehensive whereby we tossed out the 2006 and we inserted the 2040.
And the zone change was because the developer asked for that, is that the deal? Because I noticed that everything else around there is R5. So it's basically the developer asked for that to see if we will,
That
Yes.
is the application,
Allow
yes.
okay.
And what I would say to that is the applicant has ultimately identified that this project, and ultimately in staff reviewing it, this project would be appropriate for the area based off of the size and shape and design of the proposed development. There are other land uses within the surrounding area nearby, which we've previously approved, that are residential 30, residential 15. So there are some other nearby and adjacent properties that have higher densities or have alternative land uses that are not R5 single-family residential, as this site is. And the other thing I would note is that while it is RS10 proposed, I think the overall development density for this project is somewhere between 7 and 8 units per acre. So they're not seeking the full 10. They're still holding to a single-family design, and they're utilizing the PUD standards in order to optimize that design to allow for parks and open space as well.
Any other questions for staff? Well, this will be, this is for staff. Okay. Are there any other commissioner questions for staff?
Chairman, one more question that just came to mind. I read the traffic, the report, and it says less significant impact. Now, can you explain what that means in layman's terms?
Wei San, city traffic engineer. Based on the calculation, Total amount of the AM peak traffic is 54 vehicle. PM peak hours, 73 vehicles. Anytime less than 100 cars, we consider less impact.
Thank you.
Can I ask something? I don't know if it even is appropriate, but is that because there really isn't a lot of development out there, really? I mean, there's a lot of empty areas? Or do you guys take that into account that perhaps there's going to be future development and then there'd be, or you just don't do that because it's not here and now, right now?
So ultimately, when we look at the development as a whole, we're looking at, we also do, part of our environmental review, we have a cumulative analysis section where we look at this project in accumulation with other projects within the area and also look at what our general plan build out is for those intersections as well. So ultimately, the threshold that's established is 100 trips during a peak hour. And anytime that you apply that to a specified intersection, you exceed that, then there is potential for it to be a significant impact. That still doesn't mean that it's a significant impact. That just means there's a potential for it. And traditionally, what you'll find then is that there will be mitigation measures recommended by the city staff for those intersections, which is traditionally some form of street improvements, or maybe it's signal timing, or it's lane restriping. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But before we even hit that 100, but anything below that 100 vehicle threshold is going to be considered less than significant because that threshold's been established by the city as where there may be significance. Not saying that there will be, there may be significance.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? Okay. At this time, would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening. My name is David Patton. I am here on behalf of the ownership. I'd like to sincerely thank the entire staff here. Over the past 3.5 years, we've been working collectively to try and come up with what you see in front of you as what we think is a very well thought out, laid out plan that will become a benefit to the community. We intend to make these tot lots, dog parks, open space available to the public, as Oliver mentioned, maintained by the Homeowners Association. We think it'll be a great benefit. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. We might. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant?
I have a question for the applicant. Hi, Mr. Patton. What made you decide on this product versus sticking to what's existing, right? The R5. What made you say, let's achieve something more dense? And what was your thought process?
Quite frankly, the thought process was what is missing in the marketplace today. If you go north of the 60 freeway, you'll see these big half acre lots, and not everybody can afford those. You're going to have a market segment that we feel is being missed right now, and it's called the missing middle. But what we've done is we've taken all of our market data, we've worked with the city, we've said what's important. Multi-generational families are now important. We've allowed for people to age in place in these homes with downstairs bedrooms for either the in-laws or the grandparents. We've looked at what's important to them. Often they have four-legged friends known as pets, dogs that are family members. We provided 2 dog parks for them. We've looked and said, what is the market telling us in terms of what they want? They don't want big 7,200 square foot lots that they're going to have to maintain, and they can no longer place huge lawns. What they're looking for are small backyards where they can place a patio, where they can place a barbecue, but they want the open space where they can actually utilize it with their friends and family.
Thank you.
I know I thought I seen there's 4 different plots, right? 4 different models, is that correct?
4 different floor plans and 4 different
floor plans.
elevations, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what's the average size of those homes? I'm just curious.
They range between 2,100 square feet to 2,700 square feet. They range between 3 to 5 bedrooms.
Okay. And I guess this question is for you as well. I should have probably asked it during staff, but as far as the parking situation, I'm assuming that it meets the city requirements for this many homes for parking because there's no parking there at all.
Yes, sir, it does.
All right.
What is that parking per unit?
May I please defer to the staff?
So the minimum.
Was it, excuse me,
Yeah, I can, we can, yeah.
You?
So the minimum parking requirement for single-family residential is 2 vehicle parking spaces within a 2-car garage. That is the city standard. What they are providing is that, as well as they ultimately have additional parking within the driveways available on this development. And then there is also some on-street parking along the main spine road that goes through the development.
How many?
Ultimately, that's not something that we calculate because it's not something that's mandated by our code. The only thing that's mandated by our code for single-family residential is the 2-car garage, and they do meet that development standard.
Just that with 2,700 square feet, 5 bedrooms, it's kind of hard to imagine anybody just having 2 cars. I'm just
So
saying.
ultimately, we cannot
I
consider the
know,
bedroom
I
count.
know, I know. I'm just kind of just talking.
Okay. I want to make sure that that's
Yeah,
That's
no, I know.
understood by
I'm
the
well aware of
commission, is
that. It's just,
the bedroom
you know,
count is
we've-
not a.
Yeah,
is not
you
an
know,
item.
Sean, we've been up here, you know, we just wish they would change that. And I don't know how they do it, how they could do it, but it just seems like it's just very tight. And I know that they're crossing, you know, dotting all the i's and crossing all the t's, and I understand all that. It's kind of like hard for me to fathom.
And what I will say is that the state legislature has ultimately been looking at a number of different provisions over the years. None have come into play just yet, but there have been multiple instances where the state legislature has looked at limiting a city's ability to regulate
Right.
residential development based off of parking.
I just would
at
hate for
all.
people to get towed, like, you know, those predatory towers, they come in and they just, really hard for people. Okay, that was my deal. I just trying to wrap my head around putting, I know it's not you. You're doing everything the city requires. I was just kind of trying to.
and we tried to design a community that people actually want to live in. You know, we're not trying to put,
No, I know that. I'm just saying that when you move in there, you know, and we've just had some issues with other factors, but it has nothing to do with putting the development in. Okay, I was just wondering about that, the parking.
Commissioner Terrell?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask you, sir, did you do any outreach to the the residents in the surrounding area?
I met with each and every contiguous neighbor, beginning with the immediate intersection of Iris and Indian, going all the way south to Goya Street. I will tell you that currently there are 8 homes that are built to the east of our property, and their swimming pools are on my property. And that tract of homes was built in the late 80s by Lewis Homes. The surveyor took the wrong monument marks. And so you'll see on the site plan that it jogs in a little bit, and the intention is to give those people their backyards.
Okay, and what was their feedback from the people that you met, that you talked to, or residents that was there?
Thank you. Good luck. This will increase the value of our properties.
Okay. One other question. So the houses of this project, you consider moderate income or middle class housing, or how would you describe the?
We would like to think of this as workforce housing. You know, we are not trying to make it so onerous that the middle class can no longer afford a home here. What we're looking to do is allow for families to become a part of the community and age in place.
Workforce housing. Okay, that's what you described. Okay, thank you very much.
What is the price point going to be on these homes? Do you know?
No, I don't. It would be premature to even consider that.
No, because you just said that it was going to be workforce. So I was just wondering.
Any other commissioner questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we will now open the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the public hearing item. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we have one speaker, William Vaca.
Hello, yes, my name is William Baca. I lived here in Moreno Valley when it was Sunny Meat, some 53 years. I seen Moreno Valley grow from nothing. I bought 5 acres on this street, Iris. No, actually it'd be on Indian, between Iris and, I can't pronounce the next street on the other side of me. But anyway, for this project that they want to change the zoning, I live just the lot next door to that. My 5 acres are right with that 9 acres. I just want to know, by changing the zoning, my zoning has been changed from agriculture when I bought it, and then it got changed to housing when they started building houses all around me. Now with this being changed for this other zoning, is that going to change my zoning? My 5 acres?
It's just a time for you to give your comments, sir. It's not.
It's not a comment, it's a question.
Right, it's not a question and answer period time.
Pardon me?
It's not a question and answer time. Just make your
Oh,
comments.
okay, okay, I have another question then. In front of me, I have no curb or gutter, or I'm still on propane, I'm still on a septic tank. Is there any way that I could be attached to the main sewer line, to the gas line, as that project is being done for this particular lot that you want to change the zoning to? I'm the only house there with this problem. Is there any way that I could have a service to my house?
So, sir, what I will just offer 2 statements, and I would note this is still, you do still have 50 seconds to speak, but I can have staff speak with you after the meeting and give you some direction on that.
Yes, okay. Also too, if the zoning, I'm for the building of that building, what they want to do. I'm really interested in that. But like I said, I've been seeing everything grow. Now that one street there, that Indian, in that particular part where they want to change the zoning, meaning more houses, that street there is being used for a racetrack. Like I say, I complain about it, but I'm just one person. The speed limit's 50, and there's kids going from the school, the small grade school, up there on
Sir, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Chair, would you mind me if I just addressed a couple of the statements?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Vaca, what we're going to do is I'm going to have one of our staff members provide you with their card. If you wouldn't mind providing your phone number, we will have staff get in touch with you either tomorrow or on Monday, and follow up with you with regard to your various questions on sewer and the street improvements, as well as the racing along Indian Street.
Yes, they're not complaints or anything. They're just things that happen that I've seen when this city's growing. and what things are happening.
So, sir, we will definitely be in touch with you and, yeah, and be able to address those questions for you. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers?
There are no other speakers.
At this time, would the applicant like to provide any additional information? All right, well, thank you, sir. At this time, there's no more speakers for public testimony, then we will close the public testimony and move on to deliberations or a motion and a second. Do we have any, we close the public testimony, I don't believe we have any other speakers.
I did not receive any other speaker cards.
Right.
So there's actually no mandate for them to provide a speaker slip. So if you would like to open up the public hearing back up, we can open it back up and allow him to his 3 minutes. We would ask after the item, if he is so willing, to provide us with a speaker card so that we can note his information for the record. It would be greatly appreciated.
Okay.
Okay. So, sir, if you would like to come up now, the chair will, it sounds as though the chair will reopen the public hearing for you.
So we'll reopen the public testimony portion of this. And sir, we ask that once you finish speaking, just fill out that card and give that to us because we have to enter it into the record.
Sir, you are not required to fill it out if you do not want to. We would just ask if you are willing to, that you do.
We would love to hear from you.
God, you know, it really doesn't matter, man. The guy just said that he, whoever. he
Please
is,
step up to the microphone. so we
Whoever
can
the
hear.
guy is, he just said that he went around to everybody. He didn't go to me. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anybody come up my door and tell me that they're going to do anything. I mean, and they're building right directly. I'm off of Clearwater, you know, Smoke Tree. So they have I think it's 5-acre lot in back of us, and they're gonna build there, and it's like it's directly in back of my house, and nobody said anything to us or came up to us and said nothing. So I didn't know anything about it until I got the mail, and that was in there about they were gonna have a meeting. So that's the only thing I have to say about it. I'm totally against it. I don't know what would do any good. I'm just one person, like the guy said. But yeah, I don't too much care for it. Don't know about how it's gonna be done, or safety precautions, or the parking, or the park that he's gonna have, or the dog park, whatever they're gonna put there. I was just totally against it. So that's all I had to say about it, man. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do, if they're gonna do it anyway. Doubt what I say, but yeah, it bothers me. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you, sir. It looks like we have an additional speaker.
Yeah, I just have
Just
concerns
one
about
moment. Sorry, just
Hang on
one
just
moment.
1 second.
Okay, you could go ahead and start.
Yeah, I just have concerns also. You have like 24 feet from each house. I'm assuming, right? When you back out your car, and then what if you have family members and stuff on Christmases and birthday parties and stuff like that, and you got these 5 bedrooms? You're gonna have more than 2 cars. I mean, people are gonna try to get their car in there. So I'm just thinking that this is just too cramped of a place to have this built. And I just don't think it's a good idea myself. You're going to have a lot of wrecks out there and stuff. People are going to be paying tickets, all kind of stuff just going to happen. You got these Predator tow trucks and stuff. And this one's going to be a mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Since the public testimony portion is open, are there any other speakers? Okay. Would the applicant like to provide any additional information after hearing the 2 additional speakers?
In addition to the 2-car garages, there are also 48 parking spaces along the Spine Road, as Sean Kelleher mentioned.
Thank you. All right, if there are no other speakers, we'll close the public testimony portion of our meeting and move into deliberations, or if we have a motion and second on the item. No? Deliberations or a motion?
I'd just like to mention something. Okay, with the zoning change on this, our commission has in the past and lived up to it that people are told to watch and check out the properties that are around them when they buy. That way they know what's going in there. Just had a meeting where they did a shopping center, and that's what was there. That's what was supposed to go in there, and that's what went in there. I'm not a big fan on zoning changes when it raises the density of the housing. We did have, as Sean mentioned, a general plan update, and they did work mostly on the corridors, but there were also changes made out in the city. I do believe that the zoning should pretty much stay where it is unless there is just a really, really good reason, other than I feel is profit, to change zoning. I do believe that the way that these houses are set up, that it's going to be a future problem with parking, which I know we can't do anything with. It's just my view. I also believe that they say that people, they want generational living at these houses, which is also going to bring in a problem of overcrowding in the area. It just doesn't sound quite right. I mean, if they were building R5s, I'd be all happy and let them do it. But with the zoning change, I don't like the way that they're laid out and how dense they are compared to the area around it. Thank you.
I'll say a couple things. One thing I've learned being on this commission is that, there's different strokes for different folks. And when I look at this development, it feels like a condo development, and that's really what it is. It's a condo type development, which is fine. My sister just bought a beautiful condo, and she loves it. It's for her. And the parking is, but it works. I mean, when I go visit her, it works for her. So, at the end of the day, this lot, I mean, obviously it's been empty forever. And with the R30 across, with that school there, I can see, I mean, I'll be honest with you, looking at this floor plan right now, it looks just odd to me. But I know that these developers nowadays can't sell something that doesn't look beautiful. I know they're going to, above and beyond on the landscaping, they're going to make it look beautiful. And people nowadays need more options to live in. And there's people that do not want a yard, that don't want the hassle of it, and it's going to be an association. So I couldn't feel that I could not approve this. I mean, I definitely, I'm going to approve, I'm going to vote for this. But definitely, like I said, I'm not one to decide how people should live, and I think this could fit well there. Not for me, but I definitely see how it could be for some young families. I think the properties are I think the houses are a little big for those lots, but then again, people need housing, man. We need housing in the city.
I want to say a few things. I kind of touching with what Omar said. We definitely need more housing, especially in our city. There's a shortage. There's a lot of development right now going on in the city with multifamily, and I see it everywhere. I do feel like, it's the lots are going to be small, but it's another product type for different segments of our residents. And, you know, I hear it all the time when I speak to family, friends. We can't afford it, you know. Interest rates are high, and it's boils down to supply and demand. So it's something we need to, again, as a commission, analyze and make sure that we're meeting the need of our residents. So that's all I have to say.
You know, one thing about it, you know, you gotta go, like Mr. Patton says, you gotta go with what the market will bear. The other thing is you got X number of acres to deal with, and you gotta make the money work on the selling the product. So I don't, and our son bought a setup like this in Broomfield, Colorado. And I mean, there's just one track after another there in that town, and everybody loves it. I mean, they like it. And the thing I like about this, they got open spaces, you got the dog park, and Ginger and I have dogs, which is great. And then I think there's a community center in the middle of this somewhere. So I like the product. It's good. I live down in that part of town, and that Patton property's been vacant for a number of years, obviously. And I think if he wants to step up and do this, we need to go with him. So I'm for the project. Thank you.
Even though I'm not a fan of it, because like Omar said, it's not something I would purchase myself. I know that people can't afford. People are moving out in droves, and they're probably moving to where Baker's son moved to because of the fact that you can't afford property in California anymore. God knows it made me a millionaire a couple of times over. But the thing is that I guess different strokes for different folks, and even though I'm not too inclined to do zone changes, and but this one seems like there is one. I looked at on my iPad. There is one R10 up there, not too far away. The way the lot is, I mean, it looks like Omar said, looks more like townhouses, condominiums. My niece bought one up in LA because they're doing the same thing, but that's what she could afford. So I'm just hoping that it is going to be what people can afford, and they're able to get in a home, because home purchasing now has really gone to the wayside. A lot of people just can't afford it. So if this is the way we got to go, we probably have to go. And I just wish that there was, you know, more parking. But like I said, and I'm going to be inclined to vote for it.
I agree with my colleagues. I personally, I like the fact because, again, of downsizing. You don't need a big yard anymore. Actually, go out there and use scissors to cut the grass. But I just putting it out there. But I like the fact that the infrastructure improvements to me, it's a good thing, because it's not none out. The project is going to provide the infrastructure where there was none at. There's walkable neighborhood in this complex, and it's common. You have the common areas, which is good. And a big plus for me is workforce housing, because we need more housing. We got a lot of jobs, but we don't have a lot of affordable workforce housing, and then that's a plus for me. And also, too, is the fact that the traffic, according to what I read, is going to be minimal to what I read in the report. So I'm in favor of that. I had reservations about it myself, but as I read the report and talked to staff and got more input to a better understanding of this project, I was more, and listened to my colleagues, I'm more inclined to support the project based on those. And plus, it's going to help increase property values. Before, it was a vacant land. Now it's going to increase it. So that's a good thing. And that's the final thing. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Stefan, I say the same thing, but I'm kind of, going back and forth with, the project, fine. My comments is we need something different. And when as you guys know, I bought my house not too long ago. And that backyard is dirt. And man, I'm already into this thing, $15,000 to try to put concrete back there and build. And this gives an alternative for someone to have a house, 27 square, 2,700 feet, and don't have to deal with all of that. Golly, they come around like vultures. build the concrete. And it's like, my goodness, or what are you going to do with this backyard? And you spend a fortune, on those lots, because the lot sizes are bigger. And we're at the point where I'm an old person where, you can go in there and I can work as a guy and buy a house and pay for it myself. She didn't have to pay anything. That's fine. That's just where it used to be. But now we're in this place where two people have to work in order to afford these homes. And I'm fearing that we're in this place where one person loses the job and the home is gone. And if we don't come up with alternatives, again, and I'm going to say this, and many people are going to nod their head. You got a lot of people saying, I'm moving to Texas so that I can retire. And we don't want that. We don't want that to happen to our city. We want people to be able to afford their homes here, be able to work here in the city or somewhere nearby with alternatives. We keep building. Gosh, we're getting away from those big R2s we used to have, big acre lots, and that's just not affordable anymore. So I think I'm going to vote for the project because we need alternative styling and we need alternative places. It's going to attract more patrons to our own city. Say, hey, did you see those over there? They got something over there that I can't find anywhere else. And I don't have to go and spend $50,000 to fix the backyard. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Any other motion in the second or? Hey.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the Planning Commission adopt resolution NO 2024-3, 2024-4, 2024-5, and 2024-6.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. There we go. The motion does carry. Is there a staff wrap-up?
The action this evening, the recommendation of the Planning Commission this evening will be taken forward to the City Council for consideration at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into item number 2. The applicant is requesting approval of the general plan change of zone, conditional use permit and tentative track map number 38702 to subdivide approximately 13.72 acres for the planned unit development that will be comprised of 131 detached single-family residents. Do we have a staff report?
Commissioners, this property is also located in that vicinity on the southwest portion of the city. It's located at the southeast corner of Goya Avenue and Indian Street. The general plan amendment, as shown on the screen, identifies the parcel, the request to change the property from the residential, R5 residential to R10 residential. Also has the change of zone to change it from the residential 5 to residential single family 10. And the site plan project similar design as the other is for 131 single family detached homes utilizing what's called a motor court design. There's also going to utilize the same plan unit development design guidelines for the architecture, elevations, and landscaping improvements. This project has 3 floor plans, 4 elevations for the designs. Again, the dog park and tot lot will be privately maintained and publicly utilized. We also did the environmental review for this project and the 30-day review process. With that, that concludes my report. I'd be glad to answer any additional questions if you have. Thank you.
That's
I'm sorry,
like
I'm
4
sorry, I guess we
lots.
got to do the recommendations, right? So our recommendations, we have a series of resolutions for you. So we have the resolution to adopt the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring reporting program. We also have the subsequent resolutions for the general plan amendment, change of zone, and finally for the conditional use permit and tentative track map 38702. That concludes my report. I'd be glad to answer any follow-up questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
I have a question. What's the average? I know it's going to R10, but what's the average on this one as far as between R5 and R10?
Oliver, would you mind addressing that one, please?
The average in what sense? Well,
In the R, is it fully an R10 or is it more like a R8 or 7?
By the acreage, they're providing about 8 units less than what's allowed.
What it says,
Right.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any other commissioner questions for staff?
I am. In the layout here where it has it outlined, is the box just off in our statement here where it shows?
Are you,
It's hard to-
Commissioner Zeitz, are you referring to the initial study document?
Yes,
Yes, there was a printing error.
I just want to
on
make
that
sure we
page.
weren't trying to take somebody's house. Okay.
No, we are not repeating the errors that were identified in the previous development from the adjacent property. That was a printing error. The map that is on the screen currently does show the appropriate boundaries and does not impact the neighbors' properties.
All right. Any other commissioner questions for staff?
Aside, is there any, aside from just this lot, and I know it's the same owner for the other lot, is there any other street improvements that extend outside of the property line that's going to benefit the city? Is there what community benefits is there? As far as, are they cutting their sidewalk off right there? Because I see where Indian, you got Goya, they're coming out, and right there where that retention basin, are they just cutting it off there? Are they going to do any other improvements needed for flood control there? Is there any other outside improvements outside of their exact lot line?
So I will refer that part of the question to Public Works in just a moment. But what I would note is, again, with this project, similar to the project to the north, they are offering as part of this project a park amenity within the center of it. They are not asking for a reduction in their Quimby fees associated with that, nor a reduction in their development impact fees associated with that. That will be privately maintained, privately held, but open to the public, which we've done that with a number of other projects in recent history here in the city where an applicant has come forward with a planned unit development such as this, and they've proposed smaller parks that were an amenity not only for themselves, but when we have kind of a smaller residential community kind of clustered together here, that's not just these developments, but the neighbors that you'll have to the northwest, if you will, and then some of the larger lots to the, northeast, and some of the larger lots to the northwest. This community is intended to ultimately serve as having some gathering areas for a little bit larger area than what this is being developed, and then allows us to use the Quimby and the park diff elsewhere within the city to either improve our parks or to build larger facilities that may serve a sub-regional area. I don't want to say a regional park facility because that can be taken a whole host of different ways.
I have a question, maybe the Public Works Director. Is it gonna be the half-width improvements, or are they gonna improve Goya full-width improvements from the north side and south side?
So I will have, for that part of the question, I will have Clement address that. Yes.
Yes, it's a full width improvements on Goya. And some of the benefits that someone had asked about, one of the commissioners had asked about, the public improvements are limited to perimeter boundary improvements. However, they are extending Goya all the way to Indian Street. And the benefit there is that they're going to improve handicap access ramps on the southeast corner and northeast corner. Another big public benefit is they're going to extend sewer all the way from Cremeria at Orion. They're going to go westward and then go up Indian to their project. So that will benefit any properties that are along that route. If they so wish to connect to sewer, they would have the ability to do that at a future date, at those property owners' costs. But the main sewer line will be put in by this developer.
And was that a volunteer? Was it optional, or was that a requirement?
It is something that their engineer felt was the closest point of connection to the sewer, so that's the route they took.
Just curious where, I want to make sure I get the name of the street right. Comes out on Indian. Is that going to be like a one-way stop, or is there going to be a signal there? Considering this many residents, people exiting that, it may be kind of a traffic hazard to have people fight their way out on Indian.
The developer consultant conduct a thorough, extensive evaluation, including traffic signal warrants. Based on the Caltrans standard, a signal is not justified, so going to be one-way stop.
And are the full width improvements on Goya, is that a requirement, or is that something the developer is willing to do?
It is a requirement per the municipal code.
What I would say to that, I do want to put one little asterisk to that. When this project came in, it was something that they were going to be doing anyway. It wasn't until just this past December that it became a requirement of this and all developments. So I want to put a little asterisk to that of, yes, they are required to do full width, but when the project came in, they were going to be doing full width, is my understanding. And ultimately, this is, the code changed on them to mandate them to do it, but it was already going to be done before the mandate occurred.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? All right, would the applicant like to speak? Well, sir, you look familiar.
Good evening. My name is still David Patton.
Okay.
And I would still like to thank your staff here. They are an asset to your city that you cannot believe. Having built in many different cities throughout Southern California, they are some of the best. When we designed this site plan that you see here, it was with intention. We wanted to identify a strata of the market that's not currently being met. As I mentioned earlier, not everybody wants a half acre or 7,200 square foot lot, and not everybody can afford a 23 or 2,400 square foot home. These homes are typically 18 to 2,100 square feet, 3 and 4 bedroom. They are single family detached, and what this has meant is this is above the townhome market and below the project that you had just seen. So this is meeting a market segment that we identified as currently not being met. This provides home ownership for people that are currently renting and not able to afford some of the product being delivered right now in the city, but it'll allow home ownership and everybody to achieve the American dream. Thank you.
Did I hear you say 1,800 to 23?
21.
21. Okay. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant?
One quick question that I know that was asked by one of the speakers previously, and I'm assuming his property is the one right behind yours. There's a section from where the sidewalk ends at his property, stops, and then continues again at your property. Well, which will continue again. I mean, that's not gonna look good. That's not gonna look good. You mean to tell me we're gonna have a sidewalk from your property all the way down to Cremeria, and obviously they're gonna rip up that entire road of Indian and re-asphalt to run sewer line? Is that even an option to continue that sidewalk? At least if I'm a runner or if I want to walk, that I don't have to, that I can walk from that section. I'm sure you'd have to probably talk to the owner of that. I don't even know if that's public access, that street, right? I think that is. I don't even know if I think that's public access right there. So is that even something that you can talk to the owner about getting done? Continuing the sidewalk from that, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, it's a small space. From the corner of Cremeria, we're now gonna have a break. It's just, I mean, we're trying to develop the city here. Is that something that you'd be willing to talk to? I know you're gonna go back and talk to your developer and stuff about including. Is that something that you could consider?
I could certainly consider that, Commissioner.
So one thing I would note, Vice Chair Cobian, is that ultimately it appears as though right-of-way would need to be acquired along that section. And that would require him to have a willing seller in that case for that right-of-way. There's not adequate right-of-way to put the sidewalk in there with the existing street improvements because of where the property lines are on the adjacent parcel. So there would need to be acquisition, so
Yeah.
that property owner would need to be a willing seller as well.
For that section.
For that section, so I don't know if that would be something that would occur or not. Ultimately, at the time that, ultimately, we get a lot of street improvements at the time that we see, the development of those properties. And I understand the thought of hoping to finish that section. It would surprise me if the developer hadn't even had not tried to maybe even acquire that property ahead of coming to you to make their project work better. I don't know if they did or did not, but they might have done that. They might have attempted already to do that. So that'd be something that I would put out there is they may not be a willing seller. I don't know.
No, I understand your concern, but one thing's a willing seller to sell his 5 acres, and one thing's a willing seller to sell a section that's going to improve the street.
Understood.
So obviously, I'm not going to ask for conditional approval, but I think in good faith, I think it's time that our developers in this city start giving us a little extra.
To your point, I volunteered to improve the entirety of Goya without any reimbursement from our northerly neighbor. I felt that was the right thing to do.
I thought it was a requirement.
It only became a requirement in December.
Any other commissioner questions for the applicant? All right, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll open the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on a public hearing item. Do we have any public comments?
I don't have any cards, but if anyone would like to speak. Okay, we have one public speaker.
Thank you. Up there in that one particular spot that you were talking about there in front of that house next door, that's my house. And there is plenty of room for the sidewalk. I have planted trees there that is way from in the property, so there's plenty of room for the sidewalk, the curb and gutter, and whatever needs to be put in there. So there's no problem with me letting them put it in there at all. Okay? Also, On my 5 acres, the street directly, like Goya is, now this is on the other side of this property that they want to change the zoning. All the utilities are stopped at the property line, or they're going to continue building, putting another street down the middle of my 5 acres. When they were doing that, I asked the city inspector what was that there for. They said that there'll be a future street there also. So the question I got is, everything that is stopped at the line on my backyard, is that the utilities and everything that's going to go to this property next door? No? Well, there's a fire hydrant on my property that one time when they were putting it there, I asked the inspector, wow, there's a fire hydrant there. I says, would that be in the easement? He said, no, there isn't no easement here. I said, why is a fire hydrant on my side? He said, we stopped everything right at the fence line because there'll be a future time that it'll be dug out here for this street. You know, I wasn't asked, I wasn't anything that, I said, what am I going to do with that fire hydrant? Well, you could always put a motor home there. So it's good to have the fire hydrant there, I guess. But anyway, I just want to know for all the utilities, the sewer and everything, the person that owns that property now, whether you want to change the zoning, offered to buy my property, but we couldn't agree on a price. He had said that we would also put a sewer line down the middle of this property, and it would increase your price of your, the value of your property. I said, well, I can't get now what I want. How would it improve? You know? But they're just questions that I got for I'll know. I'm the only person there that has that somewhat of a large property there.
Well, thank you, sir, for your. I understand. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. And I would offer that when the city reaches out to you to hold on to your questions and ask them. And I'm sure that you can get some answers to your question when the city reaches out to you. Are there any other speakers?
No, there are no other public speakers.
Would the applicant like to provide additional information? Okay. At this time, if there's no other speakers for public testimony, then we will close the public testimony portion of our meeting and move into deliberations or a motion and a second on the item. Comments, deliberations, thoughts, concerns? I think.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment. I like the PUD because of the flexibility. It's modernizing what today's housing market is, and the fact the infrastructure is important where it's not there, and I think it's a great project. I like it.
I'd like to recommend that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2024-08, along with 2024-.
A second?
I second.
Okay, there we go. We have a motion and a second. And we have an electronic vote. Okay, the motion does carry. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
this project will be taken, this recommendation of the Planning Commission will be taken forward to the City Council at a future meeting. Thank you.
Good. All right, the next item on the, commissioners, for just a moment here, we're almost done. Almost. The next item on the agenda is other commissioner business. At this time, we have no items. So therefore, the next item on the agenda is staff comments. Do we have any staff comments?
Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, I understand that those who identified they wanted to go to the Planning Commissioners Conference, that your tickets are in the process or have been ordered. Rachel's nodding her head. They have been ordered. Your hotel's reservations have been booked. And Mr. Robert Flores, sitting next to me, will be joining you for the who are attending for the conference. I'd also like to just take a moment to introduce Robert Flores. He is our new planning official. So I am taking off one hat and placing it on his head. I now only have two. So he comes to us. The last jurisdiction he worked for was the city of San Jacinto, but he has extensive work. He's done extensive work in the county of Riverside, as well as with other city and county jurisdictions throughout the Inland Empire, and he will be your contact and your liaison moving forward. This will be the last meeting that I will be taking lead on. So, yeah, I'll still be here. I'm just going to sit in the back row now. I will not. All of the briefings will be conducted by Robert going forward.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for them this evening. I do not have any other items. Steve, do you have any?
Just like to comment about RHNA and what RHNA means, and this is primarily for the audience. RHNA is a regional housing needs allocation, and what that is that that really basically boils down to a number or various numbers of the type of housing that the city needs to provide, basically in the near future, and it's broken down by income categories. So in a project like this, when you upzone a project like this, it really puts us in a better position with respect to achieving those objectives. Now, it's not a planning comment, it's just from my perspective. And so that actually provides you with some flexibility in other parts of town, because if we ever rezone property from residential to commercial, we need to make sure we maintain that balance. And so this kind of gives us some flexibility. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just thought I'd just make that comment. And that number comes from the Southern California Association of Governments, which consists of 191 cities and 6 counties. And so they all meet together and they come up with this number for this particular region, which includes almost like about 20 million people.
Thank you. That I kind of had an idea about that, but that definitely helps out quite a bit. And sir, we'd like to welcome you on. Hang on for the ride. It's going to be interesting.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Look forward to working with each one of you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is Planning Commissioner comments. Do we have any comments?
I have a comment from kind of going back to the beginning of the meeting. Were we supposed to get a staff report on the annual progress report? Like an actual presentation? Or?
There is, because it's a consent item, there would only have been a presentation if there were any questions of the commission. Yeah, it's a receive and file.
Okay.
Any other commissioner comments? All right, then. The Planning Commission meeting is adjourned at 7:20 p.m. to our next regular meeting of February 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m.